Welcome to Angela's Kitchen Garden, where I grow my own organic fruits, vegetables and cut flowers. Yesterday my brassica cage got blown down because we had really strong winds, and if you have a look here, I left them uncovered for one night and the pigeons descended. If you have a look, they've eaten them and you can see these. And so I just need to get these covered. I haven't got the white netting to go on the hoops, but I've got this one, so I'm just going to put this on for now to stop any more of them being eaten. But I didn't think that they come out so quickly to eat them. So that's looking better now, and hopefully nothing will be able to get in to eat my brassicas. This isn't a long-term solution, but it will work for the next little while. What I'll do is I'll just get some things put along the side just to weigh it down, and then I'll just quickly show you my broad beans that I staked yesterday that were blown down. If you have a look, they're all looking really good. So they've perked back up from yesterday. Got a couple of leaves that haven't made it, that just got too squashed. But on the whole, they're looking really good. So I'm really pleased with that. If you have a look, it's a big difference from yesterday when I came down. I thought that I'd have a little chat with you about how I've been finding my allotment, or if you're in America, community garden. I think that's what they're called over there. So I took this on in February, well, at the end of February in 2016. So I've had it just over a year now, and it's a very, very different way of gardening to gardening in your back garden. I grew up with quite a large back garden where we had vegetable beds and fruit beds, and we had big flower beds as well, and it's just very, very different. When you grow in your back garden, you have limited number of pests. Well, we did, and we didn't have any of the perennial weeds, and we didn't have constant re-sowing of weeds from other people's plots, or from, like with me, I've got a big meadow behind my plot, and so it's much easier to keep on top of things, and it's easier also to grow things without having to net them or cage them, because you're not having the pests come along en masse to your plot. And in your back garden you can just grow a little bit more. So you'll, instead of, say, if your family would need 8 broccoli plants to feed them, you would grow sort of 10 or 12, and then you would have enough so that the small amounts of your crop that were eaten by things like pigeons, or if the butterflies laid eggs on them, you then had enough to be able to compensate for that. But when you grow somewhere like this, where there are lots of different people growing on the same site, you have to net them, because say here, when the pigeons come, we won't get 1 pigeon, we won't get 2 pigeons, we might get 50 pigeons that will come all in one go, and they can decimate your broccoli within sort of minutes really, because they're all having a go at it, and they all land on top of them and then they break them. And so it's just a real learning curve to sort of grow differently, because I was so used to just being able to grow things and not having to worry about them being eaten quite so much. But since I've taken on this plot, I've realised that if you don't net it, you don't get it. With your brassicas, with your soft fruits, with what other things are really irresistible to the pests, your lettuces, kale, all of your sort of salady crops, and your green leafy vegetables. Also peas, I've found they're really tricky on a allotment, whereas if you're growing them in your back garden, they're just super easy to grow. And so you do have to sort of bear in mind that it's not quite the same as if you're growing them at home. And I really take my hats off to people who have been doing this for years and managed to get nice bumper crops. I don't know whether I'm just quite unfortunate with the sheer number of pests that we get on our plot. We get deer here, we get rabbits, we get mice, shrew, rats, what else do we get here? We get hares, we get pheasant, we get grouse. I don't know if I mentioned pigeons. Yeah, we get a lot of wildlife, I think, because it's so rural here, and so this is a really great spot for them to come, because it's like a supermarket for them really. There's loads of people growing stuff, there's lots of variety for them to choose from, and they can come en masse, and then they can all get some tea. And I wouldn't mind if they didn't eat it all, but when they come, they will just decimate entire crops, which means that I then won't get any. Like with my broccoli, I was growing purple 10-stem broccoli, which I netted in the summer last year because I wanted to protect it from the butterflies. But then when the butterflies had gone, I thought that it was then safe over winter, because I didn't want it getting powdery mildew from getting too moist with the netting on top. So I thought, oh, I'll take the netting off and then it will be fine over winter, and the butterflies won't come out until sort of May time. So I took the netting off. I went on holiday in December. We went away for a couple of weeks, and then when I came back, I just had stumps left from where my broccoli had been, and they were really lush. They had lovely big leaves. They were doing really well. And yeah, the pigeons had landed on them and broken all of the big sort of leaf stems off the main trunk, and they'd eaten the tops of them where the main head was developing. And it was a real learning curve that you can't, on a allotment like this, you can't let your guard down really. You have to continually plan for things eating your crops and think about how you can prevent that from happening. We also have a lot of whitefly on our site here, and we have the pea and bean weevil. Although they're annoying, they don't decimate your crops in the same way that some of the other pests do. and we get a lot of things like blight as well. And when I was growing up and we grew crops in our back garden, we grew tomatoes, we grew potatoes, and we never got blight. It was just, I think maybe because I grew up in London, a lot of people didn't grow vegetables in their back gardens. A lot of my neighbours just had sort of a standard lawn going down the centre, and then they had their flower beds along the outside, and that was it. Whereas I guess we were slightly unusual in the fact that I had pet ducks because I wanted them, and my dad was quite accommodating, and so we had pet ducks so that we had fresh eggs. And we also had a big area at the back of our garden where we grow a lot of our own produce, which was really nice. And so I've had to adjust since I've come here. I love having the allotment. There are so many things, although the pests are a real negative that you get when you take on an allotment, and the weeds are a real negative. I think that the positives far outweigh any of the negatives, because when you're in your garden, you're on your own and you have your family and your friends, but you don't have that sort of real sense of community. Yeah. Although there are challenges to growing on an allotment rather than in your back garden, I would say that there are so many more positives to growing here rather than at home. I love the sense of community that you get here. I just went because one of my friends from down the other end of the plot just came up and gave me some green beans that he had going spare, and I had just given him some nasturtium and some of my carnations that I had. And so on our site, I don't know whether it's like this in all sites, but on our site we have a real sort of sharing community, so lots of people give things away, and if one person doesn't manage to grow something and somebody else has some, then they'll often give you the produce as well as giving you the plants. So I would say that, to sum up, growing on an allotment is actually much nicer and much more rewarding. You feel like you've achieved something when you manage to get produce, and I really love the sense of community you get down here. You can go and chat to your plot neighbours, and you can make friends with other people and discuss gardening and discuss what works for them, what doesn't work, and I love it. I really, really love it. I really like all of the friends that I've made down here, and I find that I get on quite well with other gardeners. There's something about gardeners, that sort of love of seeing things grow and producing produce. They just have I find a calmness to them that I just really like. Obviously that's quite a general sort of sum up of people, but definitely the people on the plot here, they're all my type of people, and I really, really like them. They're just really lovely.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. Also, check out my other videos. If you're on social media, you can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Pinterest, and the details of that are in the description below. And I'll be uploading another video at the same time tomorrow. So see you on the next one. Bye!